Leonardo da Vinci designed a robot 500 years before electricity existed. But that was only the beginning. Hidden inside his notebooks were sketches of a helicopter, a tank, a machine gun, a scuba suit, a self-driving vehicle, and even a parachute that would not be tested successfully until centuries after his death. It sounds impossible, yet every one of these ideas came from the mind of a man who lived during the Renaissance, a man born in 1452, a man who somehow seemed to be looking far beyond his own century. For more than 500 years, historians have struggled to answer the same question. Was Leonardo da Vinci simply a genius? Or was his mind living in the future? Tonight, we are opening the pages of his notebooks and exploring 10 inventions so strange, so advanced, and so far ahead of their time that they continue to astonish engineers even today. And the final invention may be the closest thing to a modern robot ever imagined before the age of electricity. Most people remember Leonardo da Vinci as the painter of the Mona Lisa. Others remember the Last Supper. But few realize that painting was only a small part of his life. Leonardo filled thousands of pages with sketches, scientific observations, engineering concepts, military machines, flying devices, and ideas that seemed almost impossible for the 15th century. Many of these notebooks remained hidden for centuries, and when scholars finally began studying them in detail, they discovered something astonishing. Leonardo was not simply drawing fantasies. Many of his designs were based on real mechanical principles. Some were so accurate that modern engineers have successfully rebuilt them. The deeper researchers looked into his notebooks, the stranger the story became. And perhaps nothing demonstrates that better than the first invention on our list, the mechanical knight. Around the year 1495, Leonardo designed what many historians consider the world's first humanoid robot. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary suit of armor. But hidden inside was an intricate network of gears, pulleys, cables, and weights. According to Leonardo's notes, the machine could sit, stand, move its arms, turn its head, and even open and close its jaw. Think about that for a moment. This was not the 19th century. This was not the Industrial Revolution. Electricity was still centuries away. Yet Leonardo had already imagined a machine that could imitate human movement. For hundreds of years, nobody knew whether the design would actually work. Then, modern robotic engineers studied his sketches and built replicas. To their amazement, the robot moved almost exactly as Leonardo had predicted. The machine worked. 500 years later, one of his dreams came to life. But Leonardo wasn't satisfied with creating a robot. He wanted to conquer the skies. For centuries, humans had watched birds and dreamed of flying. Leonardo became obsessed with understanding how it might be possible. He spent years studying wings, bird muscles, air currents, and the mechanics of flight. Eventually, he produced one of the most famous flying machine designs in history, the ornithopter, a machine with enormous mechanical wings. The pilot would lie inside the frame and use both arms and legs to flap the wings. Today, we know that human muscles are not powerful enough to keep such a machine airborne. But Leonardo had identified many of the same aerodynamic principles that modern aviation would eventually use. His dream of flight was not fantasy. It was science, centuries ahead of its time. Yet even that wasn't enough, because Leonardo also imagined a machine that could rise vertically into the air. Long before helicopters existed, he designed what became known as the aerial screw. The machine resembled a giant spiral made of linen stretched around a wooden frame. Leonardo believed that if it rotated fast enough, it could compress the air beneath it and lift upward. The concept never flew, but the idea itself was revolutionary. Nearly 450 years later, engineers would finally create working helicopters based on the same basic principle. It was as though Leonardo had glimpsed a future nobody else could see. But while he dreamed of the skies, Europe was constantly at war. And Leonardo's notebooks reveal another side of his mind, a darker side, the inventor of war machines. One of the most shocking was his armored vehicle, a giant metal shell shaped like a turtle. Cannons pointed outward in every direction. Soldiers inside would operate cranks to move the machine forward. To modernize, it looks remarkably similar to a tank. 4 centuries before tanks appeared on battlefields. Yet a mystery surrounds this design. Many historians believe Leonardo intentionally inserted a flaw into the gear system. If built exactly according to the plans, the machine would not function. But why? Was it a mistake? Or was Leonardo hiding something? Some historians believe the flaw was intentional, a secret safeguard, a hidden trap inside the design itself. Because if the plans ever fell into enemy hands, the machine could never be used against him. Whether that's true or not, nobody knows. But one thing is certain: Leonardo da Vinci still hasn't given up all of his secrets. And perhaps the strangest thing about Leonardo was how quickly his mind moved from one impossible idea to another. While designing machines for war, he was already imagining the future of transportation. Because while most people depended entirely on horses, Leonardo was asking a completely different question. What if a vehicle could move all by itself? No horses, no oxen, no human hands. The result was the self-propelled cart, what many historians now consider the world's first automobile. Using a remarkable system of springs, gears, and programmable steering mechanisms, the cart could move forward entirely on its own. Imagine seeing that in the year 1500, a wooden vehicle suddenly rolling across a palace courtyard. No horse pulling it, no servant pushing it, no visible source of power. To the people watching, it must have looked like magic. But Leonardo wasn't interested in magic. He was interested in motion. And centuries before automobiles existed, he had already imagined one. Yet Leonardo's curiosity never stopped there, because once he conquered the land, he turned toward the water. One of his strangest inventions was a pair of water walking shoes, floating platforms attached to the feet, balancing poles held in the hands, a machine designed to let a person walk across rivers and lakes. Whether it could truly work remains uncertain, but the idea reveals something remarkable. Leonardo never accepted limits simply because everyone else did. And if walking on water sounds impossible, what came next was even more extraordinary. Because Leonardo wanted humans to travel beneath the water. Hundreds of years before modern scuba equipment, he designed a complete diving suit, made from leather, equipped with breathing tubes, connected to floating air chambers on the surface. His goal wasn't exploration. His goal was stealth. He imagined soldiers moving silently beneath enemy ships, hidden below the waves, invisible to everyone above. For a man living in the 15th century, the concept was astonishing. But Leonardo was already imagining underwater warfare centuries before it became reality. Yet no matter how deeply he explored the oceans, his eyes always returned to the sky, because flight remained his greatest obsession. And that obsession led him to another remarkable invention, the parachute. Leonardo believed a person could survive a fall from almost any height if protected by the proper structure. His design looked nothing like modern parachutes. It was a giant pyramid made of linen stretched over a wooden frame. For centuries, people assumed it would never work, until modern engineers finally tested it. And to everyone's surprise, it worked. 500 years after Leonardo first sketched it, His parachute safely carried a man back to Earth. Once again, the future had been hiding inside his notebooks. But Leonardo still wasn't finished, because he continued searching for ways to transform warfare. Traditional cannons were slow. After every shot, soldiers had to stop, reload, and wait. Leonardo hated inefficiency, so he designed something extraordinary: the 33-barreled organ. Rows of gun barrels arranged like the pipes of a musical instrument. One row firing, another cooling, a third being reloaded, creating a near-continuous stream of fire. Centuries before machine guns existed, Leonardo was already trying to solve the problem of rapid-fire combat. And if that invention sounded intimidating, his next creation was designed to inspire pure fear: the Giant Crossbow. A weapon so enormous, it looked more like a moving fortress than a bow. Mounted on wheels, large enough to launch massive projectiles across a battlefield. But perhaps its greatest power wasn't destruction. It was psychology. Leonardo understood that fear can sometimes be more powerful than force. Imagine standing atop a city wall and watching a weapon larger than a house slowly rolling toward your gates. The battle might be lost before the first shot was ever fired. And when we place all 10 inventions side by side, the mechanical knight, the ornithopter, the aerial screw, the armored tank, the self-propelled cart, the water-walking shoes, the diving suit, the parachute, the 33-barreled organ, and the giant crossbow, a remarkable truth begins to emerge. Leonardo da Vinci was not thinking like a man of the Renaissance. He was thinking like a man from the future. Many of his ideas would not become reality for hundreds of years. Some waited until the Industrial Revolution, others until the 20th century, and some continue inspiring engineers even today. Yet every one of them began the same way: as a sketch, as a question, as an impossible dream inside a notebook. Perhaps that is why Leonardo da Vinci remains one of the most fascinating people in human history. Not because he painted the Mona Lisa, not because he created masterpieces, but because he dared to imagine a future nobody else could see. And perhaps the most astonishing thing of all is that 500 years later, the world is still catching up to his imagination. So tell me, which of Leonardo da Vinci's inventions shocked you the most? You're watching Art Whisper Media, where every masterpiece hides a story waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to join us on a journey through art's greatest secrets, because the next story might change the way you see art forever.